Hey everybody, it's Emily at Arc Schooling, and today I'm going to be bringing you my May book haul. So I did, in fact, buy a lot of books in May. I'm not sad about it. I got a lot of really great things, so I'm just going to get started because there's a lot. Also, just side note, there's noise. There's lawn work happening, there's kids in the kitchen, there's a dog at my feet. It's gonna probably get annoying and loud. Whatever, I'm filming anyway. So I'm just gonna jump in. First book I have here is Nocturna by Maya Montaigne. I pre-ordered this because all I actually heard about it was somebody say it had to do with a faceless assassin, and I got really excited because it sounded very Arya Stark. This is fantasy, and I don't know. I really wanted to read it, so I have nothing more to say besides that the cover's gorgeous and the whole faceless thing sounded. Also picked up Buried Beneath the Baobab Tree by Adobe Trisha Noelbani, whose name I'm sure I've just butchered, but I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names, but I've had this on my want to read list for forever. This sounds so good. It's to do the Boko Haram girls that were kidnapped, and this is a fictionalized version of the story, but I believe it is based on the experiences of the girls who were captured. And I just have been really wanting to read this. I love reading about anything to do with Africa. I find it fascinating. And I know this is going to be harrowing, but also really well done. I've heard good things, so I'm really excited to pick this up. I also got The Faithful Spy, a true story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Plot to Kill Hitler by John Hendricks. I, read anything to do with World War II. This is a graphic novel about a plot to kill Hitler that obviously failed, but I love reading about this kind of stuff. I can't get enough of it. So when I saw this, I just had to have it. It's like really, really beautiful too. I love the color scheme in it. I just think this is really cool. I also picked up All Different Kinds of Free by Jessica McCann. And this I picked up with level 12 in mind. I don't think it's gonna fit. I already have enough books for this topic, but I picked it up anyway because I do want to read it. This has to do with the Civil War and slavery, basically. I've heard really good things about it. I haven't read it yet, but I hear it's really good, and I do want to read it at some point, even if it doesn't end up in level 12. The book I have is Trail of Lightning, the Sixth World series by Rebecca Roanhorse. I've heard really good things about this. It's urban fantasy with Native American inspired mythology. I just think that sounds awesome. I love the cover is gold, it's beautiful, and all I really know is that like I said, it's urban fantasy with Native American mythology, and I believe there's like trickster gods and stuff. I love that. I love that this is a thing, and I don't know why I haven't seen something like this sooner. Native American mythology is just like the perfect backdrop for fantasy. I don't know why we haven't had more of this. I also like that this is own voices, so I'm excited to pick that up. Another book I pre-ordered is The Farm by Joanne Ramos. This I picked up, I want to say because Chelsea Palmer was talking about it. I end up with a lot of books because of her, but this one is something similar to The Handmaid's Tale in that this is about a dystopian world in which you can live in luxury for 9 months while you're gestating, and you have these perfect babies that you then give away to people who have purchased them, and I just think that the whole idea of that is fascinating, and I love me some good dystopian. And I need to see what this is. I don't know. The premise sounds very, very intriguing. And I think this is maybe multiple perspective as you follow the different women who are living in this luxury spa kind of as they have these babies. I want to know like what happens. That just sounds so intriguing. And yet another book I pre-ordered. I went like on a pre-order spree in May because there were so many books that were coming out that I really want. And this one is Stepsister, and it's by Jennifer Donnelly, and you know that I recently read These Shallow Graves by her, and I'm just like desperate to read all of the Jennifer Donnelly I can get my hands on. And when I heard she was coming out with a Cinderella retelling from the perspective of the evil stepsister, I needed it. I needed this book. So I don't know when I'll get to it, but I'm very excited that I have this, and I cannot wait to read it. You guys, I pulled this table up so you could see the stack, and I'm realizing you still can't see it, but I promise that you will, because there's a lot of books here. I also have Sweep, The Story of a Girl and Her Monster by Jonathan Auxier. I've heard so many people talking about this book that I finally picked it up. I'm planning to read it with my youngest. I don't really know too much beyond that it's Victorian London, I think, and has to do with chimney sweeps and a monster and friendship, and I don't know. We'll see, but I've heard it's wonderful. I also picked up Someone Knows My Name by Lawrence Hill. I actually have finished reading this. It's going to be on level 12, and it's wonderful. I'm going to try to do a wrap-up where I will talk more in depth on my thoughts about this book, but this was one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. It's gorgeous. It's just the writing is so good in this book. I was there. I was in the story. This book is about the slave experience. It follows a character who is a slave in the time of in the time of the Revolutionary War, and she works for the British to earn her freedom, and it's very good, very sad, but also very hopeful. Picked up because of BookTube is Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. This is another book that I've had so many people like talking about in my feed, and not just on BookTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere. This book is everywhere. And so I finally bought it. I don't know when I'm going to read it, but I have it. This, I think, has to do with twins, which is also the thing that that solidified it for me, that I needed to buy this, because twins are a thing that I enjoy reading about, because I have twins, and so I'm always drawn to stories about them. And I honestly don't really know anything about this beyond that it has to do with twins, and it's boy-girl twins, and I want to say the boy twin was accused of rape, and his twin sister has to figure out how to deal with that information, and I don't know much more than that, but I'm excited to pick it up because I hear wonderful things about it, and I'm realizing the problem I have here. I'm going to have to start switching the book to this side because I can no longer hold it over. The next book I picked up is A Wolf Called Wander by Roseanne Perry, and this one I bought because Lauren Reed at Reed Family Reads on Instagram was talking about it, and she pointed it out to me that this was a book that I needed to pick up, so I did. This is a book about a wolf, and it is a true story, I believe, about this wolf that they were tracking and how he journeys a great distance, I believe. And the reason I was looking at it anyway is because I've had in the back of my mind for a while now that I wanted to do some kind of a dog unit study for Build Your Library. I don't know when that's going to happen, but this book would be perfect for that, so I have a copy, and I'll get to it at some point. This is another book I also really want to read with my daughter because she's really into animals at the moment, so I think this would be a good book to read aloud with her. And yet another pre-order. I think, am I right? Yes. This is, in fact, the last pre-order that I got this month, and that is Let Me Hear a Rhyme by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was one of my most anticipated books this year. I'm very excited. I have it. Again, don't know when I'm going to read it because I just do not have the time right now, but I'm very, very excited. I love Tiffany D. Jackson's books. She's an auto-buy author for me now. From now on, I'll buy anything she writes, basically. I don't really know too much about what this is about, besides that it has to do with some friends their best friend has died, but he was building a rap career, I want to say, and this is inspired by Biggie Smalls, I think, and so he's building his career, and it doesn't start to flourish until after he's dead, but nobody knows that he's dead, and so I don't know much more than that, but I am very excited to read this. Also bought When I Was a Slave, Memoirs from the Slave Narrative Collection. This is a Dover Thrift book, and I don't know if I'll use this or not. I already have I already have Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs that I'm planning on reading and using. And so I don't know if I need this too, but I haven't decided what I'm doing with that yet. So now I have options. I also picked up The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich, which I keep buying her books. I haven't read any of them yet, but I have a lot of them, and I don't know what I'm doing with this yet. I have it in mind for level 12 because I still wanted to fit in more Native American voices into that level, and so I have this as an option. I don't really know too much about it besides I believe this is a standalone. A lot of her other books are part of a series, so I was excited that I believe, at least I think I am. You can correct me down below if I'm wrong, but I think this is a standalone book, and I don't really know too much about it, besides that I really want to read it and see if it fits in level 12. This book for my daughter, and I have a feeling I'm just going to end up keeping it because I don't know. This sounds like a really interesting story. This is middle grade, and it's called The Benefits of Being an Octopus by Anne Braden. I bought it for her based on the cover because I just thought this cover and the title were so Sarah, but I don't know if she wants to read this or not. It's middle grade, and it has to do, I believe, with a girl who is around 12 years old, and her family lives in poverty, and she's had to take on way too much responsibility for a kid that age because of the needs of her family. And I just think this is such a beautiful cover, and the story sounds so really intriguing to me that I just really want to read it. So maybe Sarah will want it too. I don't know, but if not, I'm happy to keep it because it sounds really good. Another book I picked up is Dear Martin by Nick Stone, and I bought this as sort of a companion to read after I read The Hate U Give, which I am so excited to finally pick up in a couple of months because I've been wanting to read it for ages, but I've had it in my level 12 pile, so I know The Hate U Give is going to be in level 12, but I also really wanted to read Dear Martin, which is also very short. But I want to say this has to do with the same basic topic of The Hate U Give. I don't really know too much more about it than that. But I'm very intrigued. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. These next two books I picked up, one I picked up for Sarah, but I also really want to read, and then I bought the other one almost immediately after because it came up as a recommendation on Amazon, and I said, okay, I'll buy that. The first one is Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is a vampire story, and if you don't know, Sarah is an aspiring author, and she's currently writing a vampire novel. And yeah, I'm going to put it out there, Sarah. The world will now know Sarah is writing a vampire novel. I have this for her, but I also want to read it. And I think it's a Mexican vampire story. And then the same author has written Signal to Noise, which I bought because it has to do with 80s music, I think. So it takes place in Mexico City in the 80s, and it has to do with music and friendship and something that happened. It jumps forward to 2009 and the stuff that's happening because of what happened in the 80s. I don't know. It just sounded really intriguing, and I'm a sucker for anything to do 80s, so I'm very excited for this. One is Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. These are all Civil War. This one, I believe, has to do with two men who are fighting, and this also has to do with the Indian Wars happening to the West at that time. And I want to say something to do with adopting an orphan from those wars. I'm not sure, but I've heard very good things about this. I also have Never Home by Laird Hunt. This has to do with a woman who her husband can't fight, so she decides to fight in his place during the Civil War. I do already have in mind for the nonfiction, for the history part of level 12, I have a book about, I think it's called They Fought Like Demons, about women who fought during the Civil War, so I have an option here that has to do with that specific topic, but then I don't know if that's overkill if I have both the history and the literature on the exact same topic. I don't know. I kind of want more well-rounded than that, but I also am really intrigued by this book. And then I also have Grace by Natasha Dion, and this one has to do with the slave experience in that time And again, I'm like, I don't know, this sounds really, really good, but I already have enough books, I think, on the slave experience that I don't know if I want to focus just on that topic within the Civil War. So I don't know, but this sounds really good too. This has to do with a woman who, she gives birth to a child, and I believe she dies during childbirth, and then her ghost watches over her child as she grows and becomes a freed slave, and deals with the freedom of that. So I don't really know. I don't know what I'm going to use. I'm kind of leaning towards either Never Home or Days Without End. I'm feeling really confident about both of these, so I don't know which one it's going to be, but you know, let me read them and I'll get there. Okay, my stack's getting too tall. I'm going to have to slide it over a smidge so I can fit more books over here, because I have more. I'm not done. No, of course not. The next book I have is House of Purple Cedar by Tim Tingle. This has to do with a young Choctaw woman of the late 1800s looking back on her experiences of that time. And so it sounds really good. I've heard good things about it. So this is a potential for level 12. This is the books I have here I got while we were in Maine. We went to Maine a couple weekends back, and we discovered some bookstores because, you know, as you do when traveling. And one of the places we went, I just have this bag here to show you, is Mainly Murders Bookstore. This was the cutest little bookstore I've ever seen. It's literally like a small outbuilding off of her house. And the women that own it, they live right next to the bookstore, and it's so cute. It's so cute. I took a bunch of pictures. They're on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, it's a cute little store. And literally everything in the store is mysteries and thrillers. So I was just, it's great. And so they're all used books as well. So I walked through and bought a few things, as you do when you're in a cool bookstore. I picked up The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafran. I've heard lots of people talking about this. It's a very bookish mystery story. And I want to say it also takes place in Spain. That's literally all I know about it. Just that people have been telling me I should read it. So, and the woman in the bookstore said I also should read this because, you know, we were discussing my love of books and how I want to open my own store and build your library and all of that. So anyway, she recommended it to me. I also picked up Dissolution, a novel of Tudor England. This is by C.J. Sansom. As soon as I saw Tudor England, I got excited. They had a bunch of them in her store, but this is the first one. I've never read them, so I wanted to get the first book since it's a series. I don't really know too much beyond that it has to do with the Tudors, which is all I really needed, honestly. I picked up Night Film by Marisha Pessel. I've been wanting to read this for ages, and I actually own the ebook of this, but I've heard that you really want to read it in the physical book, because I know sometimes with ebooks, when there's extras, you don't see them. I've read books before where it's like, this isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be, and then I find out, oh, it's because I have the ebook. All the cool stuff's in the freaking physical version. So I've been waiting to read this until I had the physical book. I also picked up Let the Right One In by Jean Ajvid Lindquist. I'm saying that wrong. I know. I'm sorry. This is a vampire novel. I bought this because I want to read it, but also for Sarah because, you know, vampire research. So I've seen both of the movies, but I've never read the book. So now I have the book I can read too. This is about a child vampire and what that's like, which I've always found completely fascinating. The whole idea of being eternally a child is so distressing to me. And so I think this would be a really great read. I picked up The Devil's Half Mile by Patty Hirsch. This is a, I think, is this? Yeah, this is a story that takes place in 1799, so like right after the American Revolution in New York City, and it's a mystery, but I don't know much more than that. It says part thriller, part love story, and part cautionary tale. Sounds cool. The last book I picked up in the Mainly Murders bookstore, I got because it's Lindsay Fay. I read Jane Steele a couple of years ago and I loved it, and I've been really wanting to read more Lindsay Fay's books. And so when I saw they had The Gods of Gotham, I snatched it up. And then funnily enough, as I'm working on level 12, I was like, I really wanted to cover something to do with the Irish immigrant experience because it kept coming up in the history. And so I was doing some research and this book came up as a recommendation and I went, wait, I just bought it. So that was exciting because usually I end up buying 16 new books because I can't decide. But since I already own it, literally had just bought it. So I'm losing my voice. So now I have this. I don't know too much more beyond that. It's the Irish immigrant experience in the turn of the century, I think, in New York City. So I really want to read that. And the last couple of books I have here, I bought at yet another used bookstore when we were in Maine. I believe it was called Annie's Bookstop. And so they have new and used there. And the used books I bought, I got Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters, because since I read Fingersmith last year, I've been really wanting to read more of her books. Yeah, this is about showgirls, I want to say. All of her books are like historical mystery type stories, but they also have lesbians. So if you're looking for stories like that, read Sarah Waters. They're all really good. I hear wonderful things about all of her books. They also had The Captive Queen by Alison Weir. I really enjoy Alison Weir's historical fiction, and this one is about Eleanor of Aquitaine, and I have never read it, so I'm very excited to have this. This is a book I picked up just on a whim. This was in their new section. This is Cloud and Walfish by Anne Nesbitt. And I was intrigued by the title and the cover, but then I was reading the back, and this has to do with the Iron Curtain. So it's historical fiction as well, and it just sounded really interesting. I love me some historical fiction, and I love when it's middle grade and on topics that you don't see very often. Like, I've never seen more than 2 books now, I think, of historical fiction for children that have to do with the Iron Curtain and all of that. So I'm excited to pick this up. I bought this for my daughter because she is obsessed with all the things video game. This is Trapped in a Video Game by Dustin Brady. Is it great literature? No. But it'll be easy for her to read, and it's a series, I think, and it's video games, so she'll enjoy that. The last book I got, and the last book in this haul, is Unshunned by Gita Trelease. This is one of those books that I've been wanting to get for a little while now. I think it's a new release. It came out this year, right? Yes, this is a 2019 release. So I've been hearing good things about it. It's French Revolution, but like with some magic involved, I think. And it's young adult, and I've been just really wanting to read this. I find that there's magic and French Revolution, and that's just basically all I need to know. So I'm excited to have that. That is a lot of books. I don't know if you guys can really see this. Let me pull this closer. And I can just like sneak in here and you can just see my head. 33 books that I bought in May. I'm not surprised, are you? Every time I say I'm not going to buy any more books this month, I lie. I lie every time because I will always buy more books. It's impossible for me to not. So now I have to figure out where to put these books once I'm done hauling them and have removed them from my book haul shelf. I hope you enjoyed this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.